What is up, people? Today we are talking about a full microphone setup for an acoustic drum set that is professional, that you could use to do sessions from your house for under $2,000. I'm going to run you through all of the mics that I use on my kit. I use 12 different microphones. I do sessions from here all the time. I have songs on Spotify, I record for producers in Nashville, as well as all these videos and all the stuff you see me put out. And buying gear can be super stressful and really, really expensive and overwhelming because you don't know what to buy, you don't know what works and what doesn't. So my first tip is to buy used microphones. When you buy used, the pros are obviously it's cheaper, and like I said, they hold their value, so if you ever need to resell them, it's not a problem. The cons are if you buy used, it takes a lot longer and a lot more work to kind of hunt and find them. But today in this video, all the mics I'm about to show you, I looked them up on eBay, and for under $2,000, you can buy every single mic that I'm about to walk you through, which is a lot of money, but it's an excellent microphone setup, and that's a lot. $2,000 is a lot cheaper than a lot of the setups that you see on Instagram and online all the time. And a lot of the price is actually made up with the crotch mic and the room mic, which you don't even need necessarily if you're just starting. You can just start with snare, kick, toms, overhead, and you know that's going to be a lot cheaper than even the $2,000 that's listed here, and it'll be a fully professional, ready to do sessions setup. A couple things before we start. So all the prices you're about to see are what I found on eBay. Obviously that can change, and I tried to incorporate shipping where I can, but obviously your results may vary if you're going to eBay. But for your convenience, I've actually listed every mic I'm about to go over in the description below. They're links to Amazon. They are affiliate links. I do get a kickback if you do buy, but mainly I wanted to kind of give you those to make it easy for you. And if you do want to buy these new and you don't want to deal with hunting around and looking for them, you can just go to the links down there and it'll take you right to the mics I'm about to talk about. This playing clip is actually recorded with all of the mics that I'm about to go over, so keep in mind I'm not a professional mix engineer, so when I send out tracks from my studio, you know, they can sound even better than this when a professional mixing engineer who spent their whole life only working on mixing, you know, mixes and masters them. But you're about to hear all of the mics that I'm going to walk you through, and then we'll go through every single mic, where it's on the kit, and how I use it. Alright, so we'll go through this input by input. Out here on the kick, inside there, pointed at the kick drum, is a Beta 52. That's made by Shure, very standard mic. On snare, I actually have two top snares. This is an SM57, and this is a Rode NT5. The SM57 gives me like the normal SM57 thing, and then this Rode NT5 small condenser gives me just like a super crisp transient and like a lot of highs. They're taped together, they're in phase perfectly. So yeah, that's what I'm using there. Bottom snare, this is a Shure SM81. Great mic. You can use them as overheads, you can use them as, you know, under snare mics. Over here on the hi-hats, I have another Rode NT5. Again, getting a lot of transient, a lot of that stuff. On the toms, we have a Mic Tech PM10. Same on the floor tom. I used to use these like small diaphragm things and they weren't that great. These are great. They do have some bleed, but if you can get them up off the toms, you know, that's where they sound the best. That's where they sound the biggest, kind of pointed right at the center of the drum, not out pointed toward the edge. So you're going to get some bleed, but you can always go in Pro Tools and just cut away all the instances you're not playing. To round out the normal, just everyday mics, I have a pair of SE8s. So these are super cool. Found out about these through Aaron Sterling when he posted recently all the gear, and I was looking for new overheads. I used to use the Rode that was on snare, hi-hat. Didn't like those. Before that, I used that mic, which we'll get to in a second. Didn't like that. These are amazing, and they actually have a pad on them, which is great, and they also have a, you know, you can scoop out some of the lows if you want to. Came with that stereo bar. I got the pair of them for like under $500. They're so great. Over here, this is a crotch mic that's pointed kind of just right at my, some people call it a knee mic, I call it a crotch mic. It is a Cascade Fathead. Yeah, that's a great mic, ribbon mic, very cool. That kind of just fills in a lot of mid-range stuff and just a lot of thwack and stuff, and you can kind of do whatever you want with it. And last but not least, I have this room mic. You can see it's just a little bit in front of the drums, but it is perfectly in phase with the overheads. So those overheads are the same distance away as this room mic. And this room mic is a Cascade X15, is a stereo ribbon mic, and so this Cascade mic is a super cool ribbon mic. I used to use it as a room mic, but honestly, in this room, I just don't have that much need for a room mic. It's not a super verby room, so what it's doing out just kind of in front of the kit like it is, just gets another, it's almost like another pair of overheads, but it just gets another vibe on the kit that aren't close mics. So, you know, if you feel like some of your close mics are lacking something, or you want a little more overall kit vibe as opposed to, you know, just cranking up Snare Drum and having that isolated thing, you can do a lot with just having those mics up close, and since it's a stereo mic, you're getting two different images of the kit right from one mic in front of the drums. So those are all of the microphones that I am using. Those are all the mics I'm using. I want to go over really quick the preamps that I use. They're nothing fancy. And then I also want to go over one snare drum I get asked about a ton. In the world of preamps, everything goes into the Sapphire Pro 40. It's got 8 inputs, nothing fancy at all, and then it's daisy chained to the Sapphire Pro 24. Same preamps, daisy chain to it, so I actually have 12 inputs. Then I also use this tube, TL Audio tube compressor pre for the crotch mic, and then this La Chapelle Audio preamp for the snare drum. And this is a tube preamp. This gives you tube vibe. This gives you solid state vibe, and very cool. So this has outboard compression, and this has not compression, but it has that kind of like tube coloration. So those are the preamps, nothing fancy at all. And last but not least, I get asked about this snare drum all the time. This snare is a snare that you've seen me playing on Instagram, and it's usually high-pitched and cracks and feels very hip-hoppy, very cool drum. I get asked about it constantly, and it's a terrible drum. It's a Ludwig rocker, I think. It's a student drum. Like the shell of it is like not even real wood. It's like plywood or like cardboard, particle board or something. It's a terrible drum. It's just tuned up, and it has the stock heads on it. So I say all this to say, I go over all these mics and all these preamps to say it's way more important that you know your gear and use your gear well than it is what gear you have. I haven't always had these mics. I haven't always had these mics positioned like they are. This drum is a terrible drum. It's under $80 to get a snare drum like this. These preamps are really, really nice for the money you spend, but they're nothing fancy. They're not Neve pre's or whatever. And I'm a professional musician. I do this for a living. I record drums here for a living. You don't need to spend $7 trillion. There's a lot of gear here. It definitely took a long time for me to build up this amount of gear. But the point is, this is the gear I use, but it doesn't matter how much you spend on a snare drum or a drum set if you don't know how to use it. So if you're in the market for a new set of mics or whatever, these are all really great, and I really highly recommend them. But they're not the only option. So again, put down in your comments any questions you have, and also put down there like what do you prefer and whatever. Hit subscribe if you like this stuff. It's not about the gear you have, it's about how you use it. But this is out there now for all of you who care.